Okay, thanks for coming, everyone. Sorry about the 5-minute delay, but some networking issues going on here on my dual laptop setup. But now it's sorted out, hopefully. Okay, so let's see what we are talking about today. As you know, let's see if this thing works, because nothing seems to work today. Okay, no, it doesn't work. Jesus Christ, man. First is that light on your face. So now I know how people feel when they go to Guantanamo. Must be very interesting over there. And now it's the Logitech thing that refuses to click. I don't have arms that long, so this better work. Is there a power button? Yeah. Okay. Now it says it's on. Okay. Does it work with superior hardware?
Sure.
Or it's a Windows thing only?
Oh, you put the...
Should we call tech support for you?
Well, I can always... Yeah, if you don't want to blind me, sure.
Is this up on the screen?
Yeah? Okay, don't worry, I have hands. Oh, I thought I had hands. Yeah, okay.
Oh, this just worked.
This just worked?
Yeah, there you go. Should what you're looking at.
Let's see. Oh, now it's working. Great. Okay, so let's take a look at RDS 2012. Before we go any further, I just want to mention, as you are aware of, on RDS now we have a VDI path, right? For those that want to go crazy and spend 10 times more money, you can choose the VDI. And you have the traditional SBC, as I call it, RDS session host. There is a session, I think it's on Thursday, that goes into the VDI portion, okay? So I'm gonna cover more of the non-VDI, that is the session host, the XenApp-like solution. So let's take a look. Here you have all my information, my email address, my Twitter. So if you have any questions, if you need anything from the presentation, just give me a shout, I'll make sure you get it. So let's see what we are going to cover. The idea is very simple. First, we are going to take a look at the components. I'm not going to assume that every single person here is familiar with every single component. Is that the case? Like everyone knows about RDS and every little thing, session host, gateway, all that, or sort of? Yeah? Okay. So I'll quickly go through the components, and then we're going to take a look, of course, what's new, not only on the components, but like the feature set. And then if we can make it work, I'll show you a demo. I have a WAN emulator as well running. It's a little box, and we can simulate everything regarding latency, packet loss, bandwidth, whatever. So I want to show you how RDP behaves. I'll show a little bit because, as you know, Sean and Benny have the RDP, the protocol session, so you can get way more details with them. But I just want to show you some, so you get the idea. And then, what do we think after going through all this hassle with RDS 2012? Is it good? Is it bad? So that's the idea. You're going to see at the end if it was worth going for 2012. And then if time allows, it should. We're going to have some questions and answers. There are some people from Microsoft here. So where are they? Yeah, they are right there in the back. So if you want to beat them after the session, I can arrange for that. How much you want to beat? Oh, it's free. like every Microsoft product. That's why they come to my sessions. Let's take a look at the components then. First obvious one, licensing. So if you are deploying a new RDS deployment, you need to have your licenses sorted out. This is one box, sits there, you activate, you add your licenses per user, per device, and you are done. Then you just point your farm, your servers, your everything to the licensing server. That's the idea. You can run without a licensing server like I'm running here on my setup for 120 days. After 120 days, you need to have and activate the licensing server. After that, you still have 90 days to bring a license, okay? So at the end of the day, you have 210 days. If you are like, oh, let's do a POC, you have 210 days to try it, okay? Second one, RD web access. What is that? Well, at one point, things started moving towards like a web portal interface for the users. Not saying it's the only option, but it's one of the options. So they just launch a browser, they go to a web page, enter their credentials, and they see the applications you gave to them. They click on the app launches. That's one of the uses for the web access. The other one is it ties into Windows 7 and of course now on Windows 8. A little bit better on Windows 8, but it will be there for Windows 7 later on. But you can also go on the machine, on the client, and just point to the web access in a way where the system by itself grabs all the applications the user has available and populates the start menu, for example. So as soon as you log on to the PC, that happens in background, and you have your applications on the start menu. So you don't even need to hit that web port, a web interface. Everything happens transparently for your users. And then, of course, they click on the application launches. But it's actually being launched from your backend, okay? Next one, RD Gateway. After they started doing the web access, the idea was, oh, pretty cool. People click on an icon, and they launch an application. But what if I'm behind a firewall? That's where the gateway comes to the picture. The idea of the gateway, the basic idea, it's to work as a tunnel, HTTPS tunnel. So everything that happens from client to the back end goes through an HTTPS connection. So if you are somewhere like at a different office going through their firewall and you're trying to reach your resources, if they have HTTPS open, you're going to go all the way through and you're going to access your apps. So that's the idea. Because before people, when Microsoft first released the web access, a long time ago on Windows 2000, people thought, oh, I just set up this web page and they click and everything works. And they started doing that and they would click and it would never connect. Why? Because it was just a web page, just providing an icon that would try to make a connection using RDP at that time. And of course, then RDP has to be opened on your firewall so they can connect through the firewall. So when the gateway came, they fixed that. But most people don't realize until they try to deploy a web interface and they couldn't connect. RD connection broker. Well, the connection broker is the guy that sits in the middle between the endpoints trying to connect and the resources. So it finds out which resource is the best one available at any given time with less number of sessions. It knows if you have a session established already, because you may have disconnected for some reason. So it's just the man in the middle in terms of brokering the connection. So that's what that guy does. And then, of course, we have the one your users actually connect to run their applications. So when they launch Outlook or they launch PowerPoint, they are running PowerPoint off a session host. So it's installed on the session host. Do you need every single component here? Well, not really. You don't need a gateway, for example, for like an internal deployment only. Or I have some customers, they didn't even bother because they had a VPN solution in place that all users had to use, so they didn't want to come up with another method for the users to connect. They just said they know how to connect through the VPN. They go VPN, and then they open the portal, they click, and boom, they are connected. So you don't need the gateway. Connection broker, well, if you have a small setup, like a single server, living on a VM somewhere, well, then you don't need a connection broker, really, because people will always hit the same single server. Web access, you don't necessarily need web access, but if you want to give remote applications, like just the application icons, and you want to populate the start menu and all that, then you need the web access. And licensing, as I said, well, you don't need for 210 days. Later, you need. There are ways around that, but I'm not supposed to tell you that here. That's another presentation. Well, let's take a look then what's new. Of course, they updated several components. I'm going to go through each of the components and what has changed, and then during the demo, you're going to be able to see it. There is one thing that, of course, it's not related to RDS. That is the user, the GUI of the server. How many of you played with Windows Server 2012? Okay, so we have a small group of unhappy people. Because the GUI, it's really, really weird. Like you want to shut down the server, you have to click like 10 things and then, oh, I want to shut down. It's easier to just unplug the power cable at the back. So seriously, like it gets time, like it takes time to get used for sure. Now I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, I can do it. And the funny thing is, I was asking the Microsoft people this morning, okay, how do you shut down the server? And they are like, man, I just open a command prompt and I type shut down. So they don't even like their own GUI. So man, it's terrible. But again, it's not an RDS, it's a Server 2012. And of course, Windows 8, it's the same shit. So the other thing that is really great, and you're going to see it, it's now on RDS, it's heavily driven by wizards. So before you wanted to deploy a solution, you had to go, through each component. Oh, I'm going to have my licensing server. Then you would go there and install it. Oh, I need my session hosts. Add the roles to the servers you wanted. Gateway, everything was, individually done. And to manage, same thing. It was really, I wouldn't say terrible, but it was hard for sure. Especially if you come from another solution background like Citrix XenApp or Quest View Workspace. You have a single console, you find all your users there, all the applications published to the users, it's everything there. So very simple to manage. With 2008 R2, it was harder than usual. If you have 2-3 servers, fine, but when you have like 20, 40, 100, then it would be like really, really painful. It was terrible to manage. With 2012 now, much easier. And I'll show you what that means in terms of the GUI. And even the PowerShell things, I'll mention later. Now when you add a role, they can spit out the PowerShell command that was used to install that role. And why I like that, not only on RDS, but on Citrix XenApp environments. Citrix has one feature that is PVS, Provisioning Services, that can allow you to create an image and deploy that single image to all your servers, all your XenApp servers. That's great. You create one and you have everything done. The problem is I've been to some customers where someone created the image and then the guy, you know, either died or left the company, whatever it was, and no one knew how to redo the image. The documentation was sort of there, but then the guy was so used to do certain things, installing applications or enabling certain things on the server, that someone would try to follow the document and it would end up with a different image. That's why automation, even if you have a single image, it's very important. I try to automate everything. And if you can get the PowerShell of the, you know, of the wizard, perfect. You can document that command, and later on, if you want to build something manually, just run a bunch of scripts and it's done. So if someone just follows a script or just double click on a script, he doesn't even need to understand what the script does. Just a matter of, okay, can you double click something? Yeah, okay. If he can't double click, don't hire that guy, right? So very nice. And everything, as I said, is centralized. You want to find a user connected, you launch one console, you find where the user is on any of your RDS 2012 servers. Then you can just log off the user, for example. And as you're going to see, RDP is really, really improving. Before, you know, RDP was okay for many scenarios, and it was sort of bad for some scenarios. Now with RDP on 2012, it's really, really good, like really impressive. So if your decision to, you know, not to go RDS before was purely based on performance for the protocol, like, oh, my WAN conditions are terrible, I have remote users that suck and all that, RDS now is really decent. So it's definitely worth to take a look, guaranteed. And also, as I was talking to the Microsoft guys this morning, the main barrier for people that they were coming from 2003 to 2008 R2, what was the main issue that, you know, held a lot of people moving towards 2008 R2?
Application compatibility?
Yeah, 64-bit compatibility, right? Now, chances are most people are on 2008 R2. Is that correct or not? No? Someone on Windows 2000? No? Oh, one guy there. Okay. You can leave right now. So if you are on 2008 R2, chances are most of your stuff works. That's great, because if it works on 2008 R2, like 99.9% chances it will work off the bat on 2012. And again, given the massive improvements like on the RDP stack and management, it is a good idea to take a look at 2012 for sure. So connection broker. What has changed from the previous release to the new one? I'll just list, you know, the main features. First one, now it's really highly available. Because of course, if you are setting up all these components, you want to set up them at least in pairs. So if something dies, the other one is there to take the load. So with the connection broker, now you can actually set up multiple connection brokers, and now they are fully aware of everything that is going on your farm, on your backend, on all your session host servers. But of course, there is a requirement for that. So now it requires a SQL backend. Okay? We have been saying that for years. If you look at all the other solutions, they all rely on some sort of database. Citrix has its database. ViewWorkspace has its database. Like ProPalms has its database. Like everyone has a database. So Microsoft, for some reason, they don't like databases. So now at least they started realizing, oh, databases may be helpful. So that's what we have on the connection broker. So down the road, I expect to see more and more things going into the SQL, but you never know. The other thing is, once you have your connection brokers up and running, pointing to the same SQL, you need a single DNS entry that points to the IP addresses of your connection brokers. And then you have a highly available pair of connection brokers, or more, whatever, depending on what you want to do and load. Okay?
No more payload per cluster?
No.
Sweet.
Yeah. 1 down, 10 to go. They'll keep working. That's how they, keep themselves busy. They release one feature, wait 3 years, another feature, and everyone has a job. That's perfect. The other thing is still session and wait based. So that means the connection broker by itself, it's not smart enough to realize, oh, there is one guy, using a lot of resources on the server. And why this is the case? As I'm going to mention later on, you have the fair share stuff on 2008 R2 and now on 2012, much better on 2012. So the idea of the fair share is what the name says. It's to give users a fair share of the resources, okay? But if you still need that, they made it extensible. So you can plug in like a third-party something that will calculate whatever you want. Like, okay, today is Thursday, I'll send the users to that server. Yeah, you can load balance by day of the week, for example. It's possible. Clear? Now, gateway. Same thing. Before it was very like a piece of stone. You couldn't do anything with the gateway. Now, like the connection broker, it's extensible. So whatever you want to plug in on the gateway can be done, can be extended by third parties. And of course, because of the new protocol, if you don't know, it has UDP capabilities. So RDP can go over UDP. Before it was TCP only. And that was a funny thing, like last year. Was it last year? We were like in Redmond for the MVP summit, and then the Microsoft guys, they come and, oh, I want you guys to see this. And they turn on some demo over like 400 milliseconds, whatever it is, and oh, it's working well. And everyone knew, like, they have to be doing UDP. But then you would ask them, oh, are you doing UDP? And they're like, no, we can't tell you that. Like, man, it's obvious you're doing UDP. Just tell us. It's under NDA. But even under NDA, they don't trust you. So they never told us it was UDP based. We knew it was. So now it's implemented. Web access. So finally, it supports other browsers. On 2012, if you don't use the best browser on the market, Internet Explorer, if you use some other browser, according to Microsoft, now it supports, if you are doing like Chrome or Firefox, whatever it is, it works. But of course, you thought it was any browser, like on Macs, and no, it's browsers on Windows, okay? So if you're running Windows and you decide not to use IE, then it works with other browsers. That was not the case with 2008 R2. Okay? People had all sorts of issues with other browsers. Now it's fixed. The other one, folders. What is that, folders? I'll show you when I connect to the web access. It's just what the name says. Like if I give applications to the users, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, I can create a folder called Microsoft Office, and then under that folder I have my applications. And if I have financial applications, I can have a folder called financial, and inside that folder, all my financial applications. So that's what the users would see on the web interface, on the web portal. They click on the folder opens up, then they see the applications. Seems stupid, yes it is, but it wasn't implemented until 2012. So you see, it took them 12 years to implement folders. Must be hard to create folders. Yes?
Is that just for organization, or is there also security that you can apply to those folders?
Well, when you publish the resource, you assign the resource to a group of people, right? So if they don't belong to that group, they don't even see on the portal. So it's really organization, really. Okay? So that's the web access. Now, that's, in my mind, the biggest one. Like, most of the improvements are on the session host side for sure. So what changed? Again, centralized management. All these wizards for everything you can imagine. And when you launch the wizard, now there is a quick and a standard wizard. So the quick start, it's basically, if you click wizard quick, if you choose session host, it will set up one single server with all the roles it needs for you to have a working terminal server, ready to publish applications. It will actually publish some applications, some default stuff like WordPad, whatever it is, just for you to test. But it's ready to go in like a couple clicks. For the VDI, it's the same thing. Like if you choose the VDI, the quick, it will set up a small VDI single server Hyper-V environment for you. So very, very easy to use. The standard gives you the flexibility to basically pick the servers you have and tell the wizard which roles you want on these particular servers. So let's say, like in my lab, for example, I set up a couple VMs running 2012, just plain 2012, nothing added. Then I went to one server, and that's my recommendation. Make sure you have a separate server that will become your console, management console server. So from that guy, you fire up Server Manager, and then you create a server group. A server group, it's basically you can go tell the server, okay, browse AD, find all your servers, and it adds that to a group, just a logical group of servers. And when you fire up the wizard on that one server, you select standard, and then it will start asking, okay, out of these servers that you selected, which one you want to as your connection broker? You just select the server, click, next. It's going to ask you the next question. Oh, which one is going to be your web access? Next. Your session host, oh, all these 3-4 guys, next. As soon as you click done, it connects to every single server that was part of your selection during the wizard, and it will add all the roles that are needed, and it will do a pre-configuration, a basic configuration of every single role on all the servers. Okay? So from that single server, you fire up a whole RDS environment on the back end. It's all done for you from one single point. If a reboot is required, it will take care of rebooting the boxes. When they come back up online, it's ready to go. You just need to connect to the web and boom. And if you have like a certificate that you created, with a VeriSign, whatever, then of course you need to add these things. But that's all. So you don't have to do anything manually again on 2012. Very, very powerful. The one question I have for Microsoft, let's see if they have an answer. When you go through the wizard and you select the session host, you select your boxes. One thing I noted is the desktop experience, that checkbox that adds all the fancy GUI for the users, the arrow and everything, it's not enabled by default. So can that be part of the wizard at one point? That would be helpful. Okay. He's just nodding, he's not saying anything. Of the wizard, yeah. I'm not sure if most people enable the desktop experience. Did you actually ask any customers for that? Or you just asked it yourselves? Like, I see. The funny thing is, like, the people that use Citrix, usually they know about that because of all the packs that Citrix released over the years, like the desktop experience pack, whatever name they gave it, to make XenApp look like Windows 7. So for that, you have to enable all that. So people usually enable, but on plain RDS, some people, they don't even know that thing exists. So it would be at least good on the wizard to have a checkbox, enable or not. Yeah. But it's great. Then they introduced the concept of a session collection. Well, a session collection is, for you Citrix people, it's a farm. So it's just a logical group of servers that will be providing resources to your users. So once you create a collection, then if I publish an application like, oh, I want to give words to my users, you go on the collection, you add word, and boom, it shows up on all the servers, okay? Of course, the application has to be installed on all the servers on your collection. It's not going to install the application for you, okay? That's why, as I mentioned before, automation is very important, even for applications. Most people, they don't realize that. They just set up the server, and then they go and manually install applications. Bad idea, for several reasons. The guy disappears, the one guy that knew the application, dies, you are screwed. So if you have everything automated, someone just launches a batch file, PowerShell, whatever it is, and all the applications get installed on the server. If you are using application virtualization, then of course you have your packages on your app.v, on your whatever, FinApp, whatever you like it. Then you don't need to automate. So user profile disks added on 2012 as well. So now users can have, each user can have a VHD file, a disk, that will hold their settings and application data. Can be used in conjunction with folder redirection. So you can redirect like your start menu, whatever, or desktop, whatever it is. You can redirect the folders and then leave everything else that you want to follow the user as a user profile disk. Another feature of 2012 and Windows 8. And you set up the same way. I'll show you a screenshot. It's the same thing. Just point to a share, like you did with roaming profiles, for example. So, it's a very good feature, especially if you are used to roaming profiles. If you endured roaming profiles all these years, it's a really welcome feature. And as I said, fair share everything. Why I mean everything? Because on 2008 R2, you had fair share, like for the CPU resources, for example. But you didn't have for network, for IOPS, for example, for disk access. Now with 2012, it's all there. So now the system will make sure a user doesn't take all the bandwidth, for example, or doesn't run a process that starves the disk, for example. So it's really fair share for everything. So much better experience. And in a way, as I mentioned before, that's probably one of the reasons, if this is implemented and working properly, you'll know there is a user that will never bring the server down, because the fair share will prevent that. In that case, the connection broker doesn't need to really know the load on the server, because we can assume the server will always be responsive. because of the fair share. But again, these are just assumptions. When it is released to the public and we try it and we hammer it, then we're going to know if it's working properly or not. Let's just assume it works. So what else here? Oh, just some screenshots for you. I'll run the demo and then you're going to see this live. This is the server manager. If you have never seen server manager on 2012 before, here you can see there is local server, all servers. So that's the all servers that I mentioned, the server group that you create and you add servers to the group. And then you go to all servers and you see all the servers that are part of the group you created. And then you go to manage, and that's where you start the wizards. And here I have one on remote desktop, so I created something. So what else we have? Oh, this is the RDS console. So you'll see very, very different. You can see here, this is my deployment overview. So I have an RD web access up and running. I have my connection broker up and running. I have my session host servers here. RD virtualization host that I'm not using because I'm not using VDI. And then I have my session collection here. The funny thing is, Microsoft for some reason didn't add the RD gateway and RD licensing to the wizard. So after you run the wizard, it only gives you 3 components to add to the solution. Maybe, sometimes you run out of time, you have to release a product. You don't have another year. But again, it's just a matter of going to the server and adding the role. Licensing is not that critical, again, because you have the 210 days. The gateway, you may not even need it. So probably the wizard covers 70% of all use cases, probably, okay? Other than the licensing, of course. So single console, and then if we take a look at the other one, for the wizards, as I said, you fire up the wizard, and then you select, I want to do a remote desktop services installation. And that's pretty cool because, this is on server 2012. So you can see how important RDS became. It's a wizard right off the bat before you can even, not before, but you can either go role-based and then add whatever, domain controller, DNS, DHCP, whatever it is. But RDS is right there, first screen. So you can go select RDS installation, and then it's going to ask you, okay, you want to go wizard, or you want to go the quick one, or you want to go standard. So that's where it takes over. A collection, as I said, it's exactly what you saw on the previous screen. This is my collection that is served by all these session hosts. I have 2, and that's what is part of my session collection. Okay, want to see it running? Better than just talking. Now we just need to pray to make sure it works. What? Yeah, that's it. Okay, let me switch here. Now, the funny thing is, if I go full screen, I'm not sure what is going to happen.
Smoke will start coming out of your Apple.
What is going on? I'll try. Let's go aí. Even though I cannot read, I know it's the first link. No, it's the second link. Okay, so that's just my entry point, my web access. I used a self-signed certificate. The wizard allows you to create a self-signed certificate off the bat. Of course, if you have a certificate ready to go, you can select the certificate you want and done. And later you can go on the console, on that management console, and pick a different certificate, for example. Can be done later as well. So that's the web interface. No customizations of any sort. So that's out of the box.
Does the web interface still require an active access control or for something to be run?
Well, it prompts you for something to run, but I don't think it needs, because it's just an RDP call to the local client. So it's not, the RDP client is on the box, is on Windows 8 and Windows 7. So I'm not sure exactly what it asks. But we can ask the Microsoft people. Okay, so let's log on here. Here you see folders. There is one folder called admins only. As I'm an administrator, I see that folder. And if I go there and click on the folder, then I see my server manager. So I just published server manager to the administrators. So if they want to manage the whole thing from here, they can just go to the web portal and manage it. So let's connect to the server manager. So just bear with me. It's a Node Mac with 6 gigs of RAM, trying to run like 5, 6 VMs at the same time. So as you can imagine, it's not that fast. But should be able to connect in less than 10 minutes. We should be fine. And once we have one session established, then we are okay. The other ones should work. One thing that happened this morning, I have no idea. It was my own stupidity, of course. Everything was working, right? And then you are like, oh, what if I, try that one little extra thing? And of course I tried that one little extra thing, and that thing fucked up everything. So now for some unknown reason, I only had 40 minutes to troubleshoot, so I have no idea what is going on. But I was launching videos, remote FX, all great. Now it launches okay, and then it kind of stops at a certain point, and no idea why. Like, I look at my WAN emulator, everything is fine. It's just that, Midas touch that I have that broke everything. But well, we're going to be able to launch it. If I go full screen here, what happens? Let's see. No, it doesn't work as expected. Don't worry, it's launching, okay? And let's go up here. Yeah, it's the server launching the desktop and then hiding everything in background. And everything is up and running, yeah. Okay, it was working, I can tell you that. Not sure what is going on. Okay, here it is. That's the new console. It's a black screen. So you don't see anything.
That's at least twice as usable as the old one.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it was just finishing. Okay. So now it's up and running. So it's just going to say, yeah, it succeeded. Okay, perfect. So we can close that window. So done. Okay, so here you have my console. There are no RD connection brokers. Let's see if it's trying to refresh. Okay, no. So we can easily fix this. As I said, you go here. All servers. I don't have any servers. So that's my one box. So I need to add the other servers. So I need to create a server group. If we go here, do we have a create server group? Yes. Is this the one? Okay. I can't see really well. And then we can go AD. And boom, find it. So you see, I have all my servers here. So I'll select my connection broker 01 that I'm using. I'll select my web, my session host. And then boom. What is that? Oh, okay, a name. Where is the name here? Test. And boom. So as soon as you add the servers, it tries to find a connection broker. If it finds, then it will populate everything on the remote desktop services. So it just takes a couple seconds in a normal server. On my server, it takes a couple minutes. But it will show up there. You can see it's refreshing at the top. And once it's done, we are going to see exactly the same as that screenshot. We are going to see the whole deployment, all my session hosts, then I can see all the applications I have published for the users. I can see the users, I can log off users from that console, and so on. There is one feature that is missing that I'll tell you later. For some reason, Microsoft thinks it wasn't that useful. So. Okay, so here you have my collection. It's still doing a refresh, but it will find it. It's just refreshing. So now it's going to add my web access box here, right there. If I click here, let me move the window. So it's all there. Now if I go back here and check my collections, you can see right here. And for example, right there, like remote apps, that's where you would add an application to the user. You just click on tasks, new remote application, you would select whatever application you want to give to the users, boom, done. Done on all your session host servers. And on the right side, you can see under connections, I can see my user administrator. He's connected to server number 1 out of my 2 session host boxes. I can right click and say, okay, log off, for example. So everything, single console. Not only, again, for deployment, but for management. Much, much improved compared to 2008 R2. How many of you using like a 2008 R2 only solution without Citrix or anything else on top? Couple? Yeah. And how big are the groups, the farms? Like a couple servers or some pretty big?
Probably up to
5, 10? Yeah. Yeah, even like 10 servers, it's already a pain to manage. So with this guy here, it's really, really great.
When you add the servers into the group,
Yeah?
can you tie that to, say, an Active Directory organizational unit container so that new servers that are added to that container automatically populate?
No.
No,
No.
it's based off of the machine object.
Yeah. But, you know, much better than, much better than what we had before. So now if we go here, well, you got the idea, everything is here. You can manage the certificates on your overview. Tasks. Edit deployment properties. Let's check what the deployment properties is. So you see, for example, for your deployment, you can specify, oh, these guys, they're going to go through this particular gateway once you have the gateway up and running. Well, actually, if you add here the gateway, it will, when you add the gateway, it will pre-configure with, you know, some basic settings, so it works. You can fine-tune later the configuration. Licensing, same thing. It will do a licensing server for you, but then you need to go and activate the license server and bring licenses and so on. Certificates, as I said, if you have your own, great. Like as you can see here, my connection broker, my web access, they are all using untrusted because it's a self-signed, so I would have to get the root and add to the PCs like I did with the Windows 8. Then it passes the credentials, doesn't prompt you, doesn't bother you. If you have a trusted, you know, signed certificate by a normal, well-known CA, then you are fine. So what else we have here? What time does it end, actually? $20 minutes? Okay, that's good. So here, let's try the Windows Media Player. That's what I screwed up before lunch. Sometimes I have bad ideas. That's what my wife tells me all the time. So see, I double click. This is a high definition video. I double click it, it starts fine. And then it doesn't like the video anymore. The audio is there, I don't know why. It was working perfectly. Let's try the other one. There's another one. Just click here. Let's open the other one. Let's see if it's the same shit. Yeah, this one stays on a green screen. That's awesome. And I'm not sure exactly why it's doing that. Like, there is barely anything going on. Just media player, like, decided to fuck it up. Let's try WordPad, because I want to show you the performance. So if we go here, and 11. So this is the WAN emulator. So we are, let's throttle to 10. 10. Let's add 150 milliseconds each way. So now we have 300 milliseconds delay. We can monitor this real time. Is that 1 second? Yeah, okay. So if we go here, try to type. So this is going over a 300 millisecond connection now, 10 megabits. And you see it's very responsive. Like there is virtually like no delay whatsoever. Of course, if we go and reduce bandwidth, then it starts to degrade. Or if you add packet loss, like 1%, people they like to add 0.1% on demos. That's not real. Everything works fine with 0.1%. Yeah, for text, I can notice like a very tiny delay, but for that sort of application, that's what most users would do, like an SAP or an email or writing something or Excel. It will work just fine. If we go back to the web, let's go here. And now we are limiting. So if it was getting stuck before, now I don't think it will even play. Yeah. Yeah, not sure what happened here. But this was working perfectly. Well, you get the idea. That's the web, and as I said, there is an option, if I can reach control panel somehow. Where's the settings? Right here. Computer. Where's the remote? Oh, here. That's the other change they introduced in 2012. Now, if you go on your DNS and you create an entry, all the user has to do here is to enter his email address. So he doesn't need to know, like before on Windows 7, you had to add the RSS feed the web service provides, that web access. Now the user goes there, types his email address, it finds on the DNS the correct entry, and boom, knows where to connect the user so he gets access to his applications. As soon as that's done on Windows 8 or Windows 7, the applications show up on the start menu. So very transparent, very seamless. And as I said, if you have domain joined PCs, like one of my customers, we did it's in the healthcare industry, whole RDS. They log on to their PCs with their credentials. All the icons are there on the start menu. They click. They are not prompted for anything anymore. It passes all the credentials. They use it to log on to the domain, and the application just launches. So truly single sign-on. So that's a feature now on 2012. And before you ask, it will be released like a new client, of course, for Windows 7 that will bring the Windows 7 RDP client up to the latest and greatest RDP on Windows Server 2012. Windows 8 comes with that RDP out of the box. So we saw the demo, just finalizing. Conclusion. It's for sure the best RDP to date, like by far. Works really, really well, works under so many different scenarios, great performance. It's really, really impressive. Very close to Citrix HDX. As I said, if your main reason for not using RDS in the past was like, oh, Flash or multimedia or WAN, whatever it was, now you have a good reason to take a look at RDS. It's still, in my opinion, it's very complex, like what they have done with the remote apps, like signing a remote app and all that crap, that is really terrible and has no logic whatsoever in my mind. At least they are hiding everything. So it's complex, but now with the wizards and the single management console, it's like, man, I don't care if it's complex because the wizard does everything for me. That's great. My only fear is if it breaks, then you are going to be screwed. Okay? It's like Exchange. It's the most stable email server until it breaks. When Exchange goes down, like no one recovers an Exchange server. So it's unbelievable. So that's my fear with RDS. But again, the wizards are great. You're going to be up and running in 5 minutes. Very, very scalable and manageable for sure. Even in number of users, don't think about your environment in numbers of users, okay? If you tell me, oh, I have 500 users, it may not work, what you need to remember is how many users per server you get. On 64 bits, some beefed up boxes, you may be able, you know, depending on the applications, to squeeze 150, 200, 300 users. So maybe a 600 user environment, 4 servers will do it. 4 servers to manage with this, piece of cake. Very simple. And again, full automation is a must, okay? Because if you have 20 servers, 30 servers, and now you're adding applications, make sure you automate all that. That is valid for any RDS or Citrix for that matter. Try to avoid any sort of manual installation, follow document, all that shit. So there is a little detail here on 2012 that is a funny one, and you are going to tell me if it's important or not, okay? I'm pretty sure no one expects this. Remember remote control? Remember? That you go right-click a user and say remote control? It's gone. There is no way to remote control out of the box on 2012. Yeah, I'm not kidding. That's serious. You call the user, you go to his desk. That's called personal shadowing. It's a new feature on 2012. Their justification was, first, lots of Microsoft customers, they have system centers, whatever, bullshit. Do you have that? Okay. So maybe you are not a Microsoft customer, according to Microsoft. Because their thought was, oh, the enterprise is deploying RDS 2012. They already have some sort of, ESD management solution in place. Sure, yes. With System Center, yeah, you can have, there is the remote control. If you have other products, sure, it's there. But what if you don't have it? Then the only other option out of the box is, yeah, it gets worse, people. What is the option out of the box? Remote assistance. Yeah. You thought 2012 was perfect, right? Same here, until I tried to remote control someone. And then I was like, where's the remote control? So remote assistance is one option, but with remote assistance, you cannot hide from the user that you are controlling the user, because he has to authorize, right? There's a request. You're going to tell him, oh, I want to remote assist you. He's going to start the process and ask for assistance. So there is no way you can sneak into what the user is doing. Question over there.
Does this have to do with the fact that they can't fix the blue screen on the remote control monitor?
That could be it. His question was, does it have anything to do with the blue screen issues? To be honest, like with 2012 and Windows 8, several things changed, right? Metro and so on. So they had to, like, there were issues before with remote control. When Arrow came out and all that, there were several issues. So they had to basically choose between, okay, we have to rewrite this from scratch to work, or we just ship the way it is and we do something later. And that's the path they chose. So it's being shipped without remote control. How many of you here use remote control on 2008 R2? Yeah, that's, you know, pretty much everyone uses, right?
One of the things that has come up in conversations, though, is that with the whole cloud initiative, Microsoft is trying to move people with 2012 over to Intune to use Easy Assist now. Easy Assist is supposed to replace all of the remote control that's in OS. So I think that might be the direction that they're going, trying to get people to move over to that.
Well, if we just look at multi-point server, for example, multi-point server on the latest release has remote control capabilities. So it could be down the road a matter of bringing what exists on multi-point server to RDS. They share a lot. But again, out of the box, your option is either remote assistance or whatever you have in place currently that allows you to remote control users. Then you're going to be fine on 2012. So basically, the final conclusion is, it is a very good release. If you are already on 2008 R2, you got your 64-bit issues sorted out, and you don't need remote control, then go for 2012. Okay? Or if you have another way to remote control. So yes, it's approved by me. Okay? Microsoft usually, they are like, oh, what is Cláudio gonna say? So yes, people, it's approved. It's a good release. You got your shit together. Awesome. Okay? Questions?
Session host. Can we just have a workgroup server, or it has to be?
So it has to be a domain controller.
So the session host, it's just a separate server.
No. Can we have a workgroup server without any, it doesn't need to have Active Directory connection, just a workgroup server running remote desktop?
Yeah, you can log on with local accounts for sure. It will give you more work, because if you want to have like policies to control what users do and do not, on your server.
I ran the wizard, it says it's not a domain, part of a domain, so.
Well, again, you don't need the wizard.
Right.
Allows you to set up an environment that is easy and has certain features. But if you don't want to follow that, you can always go and manually install the role, and then can be any server.
Good. As far as USB redirection, is that better now?
That's perfect now. That's a good question. On 2012, now if you plug like a USB toaster to the server, it's going to work. Okay?
Have you tested with similar devices? So if you have two similar devices, would that work, or you don't know about that?
Well, I tested with like one of the most annoying devices known to man is probably the iPads, iPhones with iTunes. And if that shit works, like I expect anything to work, to be honest.
what I was asking was restricted sessions. So this iPad on this iPhone on this session will not bother the
Oh, no, it's isolated, yes.
It's isolated.
Yes. Oh, yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
And on this thing here, what are you running that you can run the video? Is it Hyper-V you're running, or?
No, it's just a Parallels. It's on Mac. Just call it Parallels.
So you can run it. So for remote FX, the video part, you don't need Hyper-V in the background?
Well, Hyper-V, you need Hyper-V when you do VDI, right? Then when you do VDI, that you have like a Windows 7 VM and so on, to have remote FX on these VMs, it requires Hyper-V. But here, I'm just doing session host.
So you turn FX on, right?
Yeah, it will do software, yeah.
And as far as update, we can update from 2008 to this one with no problems?
Yeah,
All right.
it's a great release.